So I have quite possibly just taken the biggest risk of my short bike building life, but I'm pretty sure it's already about to pay off. So I'm tired, we've been on the road for a long time, 1,200 kilometers there and back to pick up this beast. It came up a few days ago at auction. I wasn't sure if I'd get it, but I managed to get it for a pretty good price. And that leaves me with a question, is it salvage? Do I part it out or do I build it? And by the end of the video you will know more, but let's jump into it and actually take a look at what we bought. See what's good, see what's bad. Let's jump into it. Okay, so it is a V4S. So we get obviously the Öhlins package. There's a couple of things with the front here that I'm not sure if these have just come off or if they're still working. Have a look at the forks in a sec. It's also got the Öhlins TTX rear shock, so we'll have a look at that. But the best thing about this whole bike that I wasn't fully sure of when we got it, or even when I was bidding, was this. So check this out. It's got an acro system on it. Pop around here and have a look from the side. Look at the color on those pipes. That is awesome. And I can't actually tell if, oh, my light's gone out. I can't actually tell if the entire pipe is acro because it looks like the headers have also got a fair bit of color the whole way up. And normal steel headers wouldn't get that color in it. So if anyone knows the old owner, it would be great to know before I take this thing apart to see if the full system is a full acro system or not. There's probably another way I can find out anyway, just by looking a bit more data up online. But there's a few things, there were awesome bonuses that came with this bike. And quite often when you buy a bike from auction, you don't get a key. This bike came with a key and an ignition. And to top it off, it came with a screen. So the screen's got a couple of cracks. So it's got a little crack in the edge just there, which is, oh, it's pretty minimal. It's sort of out away from the main part of the screen. And this stuff here is just really like surface. It's not even a crack, it's just like a little scratch. So I think that will actually clean up quite well. And fingers crossed this screen works, because I really do not want to have to buy a screen for a Ducati Panigale. That's just gonna cost me a lot of money, so let's just hope that's not the case. Obviously the front stay is completely smashed and broken, and that will need to be replaced. The rear sets, Arashi, I've never heard of them, but they're completely destroyed. I do have a set of OEM rear sets of that bike there. That one just there. I do have a set of OEM rear sets left from that bike there, so I might just use those in the meantime and put them on this. But one of the biggest concerns I had is in the image at the auction website, it showed heaps and heaps of what I thought was oil under the bike. And I was really worried that the entire sump of the bike was cracked because I couldn't tell from the photos. They were so grainy and dodgy, the photos. I thought that this entire sump was cracked. It's not. It's not cracked. And I had actually factored in $1,000 to fix that sump. So there's $1,000 we've just saved, or I can use elsewhere. But it does have a leak. So let's find that leak, because I think it's probably a radiator leak. So I did just find this very, very small hole in the radiator just here. Now, I do have to get a little bit of aluminium welding done from a friend of mine next week. So with any luck, I should just be able to take this radiator off, take it with me, get it welded, provided there's no other issues with it. and fingers crossed that solves that problem. I don't think the bottom radiator's leaking at all down here, so I think that's okay. But I think what's happening is all of this fluid is trickling out, and my trailer that I transported this bike on is actually covered in fluid, and it's coming just there. See, my finger's wet there, so it's obviously coming out of the radiator. The entire radiator shroud, so this piece here needs to be replaced. So this is the plastic piece which holds both the radiators in place. But the bonus is, pass me the camera for a second and I'll show you. I don't know if you can see that, but it's got RNG radiator guards, so top and bottom, and they look completely straight. So that is a bonus. Another little bonus is there's not too much damage on the calipers. Like you can see this bike's taking a big slide the whole way along this left side, but at the same point, it's quite cosmetic. It's got some scratches on the forks. Yeah, that's not great. The fork seal in this side's broken and you can actually see the spring. Look at that, but that's okay because we'll get the forks rebuilt anyway. Some minor damage around the reservoirs here. Just scrapes all along. I can see I'm missing this cover on the other side, so that's like super cheap to buy one of them. Luckily, the alt cover is not broken because I don't know if you remember on my other V4 build when I crashed that, first thing to go was the alt cover. That's about $1,000, so thank God for that. But the swing arm probably took most of the actual scrape. Now, I can see at one point it had some form of something over the top of this, maybe a cover. I can see the way the bike is scraped across the ground here, it's left quite a bit of gouge in that. But I don't think it was an impact. And from what I've heard, I'll hand the camera back for a sec. From what I've heard from the wrecking company is that the guy that crashed it low-sided it, and the bike just slid off the road into the grass and through some trees, and he was completely fine. So awesome, great news. We never want to hear anyone gets hurt. So I think we should just be able to clean this all up. I'll get it tested to see if it's straight because I doubt it's bent. And then we'll just put a nice carbon cover over the top of that, the same what we did with the other V4 that we've just almost finished. And then the only other real disappointing piece I saw on this bike was the tank. The photos on the auction site were from the other side, so what I couldn't see was this here, and it's got a pretty small dent right in the tank, so check that out. It's not too bad, like I can put my finger in it, but I think once we put a tank cover over this, you won't see it. And it might be a carbon tank cover, it might just be a regular plastic tank cover. I don't know yet. It looks as though the rear frame is actually straight. That's just me looking at it. It looks pretty straight. The bolt holes line up with the center bolt hole. Tires are pretty shot. The two Marcassini wheels are perfect, no damage whatsoever. So, like I said, I keep a spreadsheet of both of these things, build versus salvage, and they're pretty on par with each other once you start factoring in all of these parts that could be sold if we chose to go down that route, but again, you'll find out at the end of the video. It's also got the Öhlins TTX, the shock, so again, one of the highest spec shocks you can get, and once we get this performance tuned, you know, there's not much else there. You know, maybe YSS, the sorts of thing that we put on this bike. Check this one out over here. This one's got the YSS fully hydraulic shock. So whether or not we switch out the Öhlins for one of these, I'll have to have a chat to my sponsors and see what we want to do with that. So yeah, some other things which we're gonna have to do straight away is try and figure out if the bike actually runs, and it's got no power at the moment. I'm not gonna try and turn it over and just ruin the bike. On the next episode, what we're gonna do is basically give the bike a service and try and get it started. So we're gonna take the oil out, check the oil for any metal, put a new filter in place, charge the battery because it's probably been sitting in the salvage yard for a few months. And we'll probably put some clip-ons on it. So pop around here and take a look. So you can see the clip-ons are broken off both sides. Clip-ons themselves are actually relatively cheap and they just bolt straight in. So fingers crossed we'll be able to move the bike around. It's so hard to move it around without having bars on it. It's ridiculous. So we'll have to do that and try and get the bike started. We need the switch gear for the right-hand side. Luckily, I still have that in the box from my other V4. So the good part about this build, there you go, you got me. You know we're gonna build it, is I've actually got a lot of spare parts, a lot of Ducati parts. And my friends have all said this, why would I buy something else that's not a Ducati when I've got so many Ducati spare parts that should actually save us money in the long run. So from bolts, from bars, from switch gear to heaps of stuff. So fingers crossed, this build, even though it looks pretty epic, won't take as long as you'd expect. So we're thinking hopefully just a few episodes, and again, it'll probably depend on how quick we can get things from Italy, how quick we can get things from our suppliers and our sponsors, and then we also need to land on a design. So that brings me back to our final question, design. So I've got a couple of ideas. We've also got all the leftover designs from car design from the previous V4 that we just built. But drop a comment below. Let me know what you think would be a really cool layup on this bike. I would like to have my branding on it, so oneL. Yeah, let me know. Do you think it should be hot pink, hot blue, whatever? No suggestion is stupid. As long as you don't say it needs a big penis on the side, I'm cool with that. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching and stay tuned. This is going to be another epic build. And I think about the 4th or 5th build for this year, for this channel. So thanks. So we are used to taking some pretty huge risk on this channel, and this is no different. And that's because if we can't get this bike started in this episode, we are going to have to completely rewrite our build plans. So fingers crossed. So one of my biggest concerns is actually this tank, because the tank's got a little bit of damage up the top, and that's okay, I can live with that. But just here on the actual fuel line, like this to me feels like petrol, and it shouldn't be there. So I need to figure out why this has actually had some form of fuel just here. So before I do anything, actually I smell it, it smells like petrol. So it's like a mixture of petrol and oil. So I'm gonna have to take the tank off as well, which means whilst I've got the tank off, I can do something else, and it's just going to be a Tetris game to put this thing back together. Okay, so whilst I'm playing around in the front area here, I'm also going to install my AIS delete, because I can get nice, easy access to the top of the front cylinder there to get the cover off. So that came off super simple, and now I can put the Smart Moto, I can put the Smart Moto cover on there, just a nice little CNC alloy piece, and that will get rid of my AIS, which is a secondary air system. So another job done. I wouldn't be able to do it if the radiator was on. So 2 birds, 1 stone. So the radiator is loosely on. I've got a couple of bolts holding it in place, and then just the pipes on the other side at the top. I can't do anything more than this at the moment because it's 2 weeks until our new shroud gets here. This here, the big replacement piece that holds all the radiator and everything in place. So for now, I don't want to run it without coolant in place. So I'm just going to hope and pray that this actually works. So I figure whilst I'm working in this area, I might as well safety tie this up. So we'll do a little bit of lock tightening. Okay, so something else small that I do is I pre-drill my oil bung as well, so I don't have to buy a super expensive one, and that way I can just lock wire it onto the frame. So, in with the new oil, 300V, Best to the best for the V4S. Best to the best for the V4S. Oh my God, I'm a nerd. Anyway, let's chuck this in. We're probably gonna put the whole amount of this in. Could take a while to get in there. Oh. I can smell quite a lot of fuel in here, so there is definitely fuel somewhere. But that feels dry. It's just these sections which are wet. So maybe when the bike was leaned over on its side, maybe it got oil or something, because the top of the engine is clean, perfectly clean. That's exactly what we want to hear. Okay, let's take this off. And the fuel tank itself looks like there's absolutely no damage. I've just saved another $1,500 because that's what it would have cost me to get another tank. Probably even more, probably $2,000 to get one in Australia. Just need to fix that dent. Job done. Okay, so check this out. That is super, super clean. Doesn't look like there's anything wrong. This is the rear cylinder AIS. So we're gonna take that off, and we've got our second face cover kit for that. That's gonna go on there. And then there's a little black plug. You can see that little black plug just there. When we take this off, there's a plug, an electrical plug to cancel that. And then this is the back of the earbox. We just push that little black plug into the hole, and that seals the back of the earbox. We can pull this tube all the way through, and that will come out. Oh, it might be a little bit easier said than done, but this is the one attached to the front of the header, and we'll be able to pull that all the way out, and that will come out as well. And that way, AIS delete's done. It looks like the tank's fine, it can go back on. We'll put the new battery on, just the cheapie that we bought, and then fuel and trying to start it. So now I've got this switch block left over from my original V4. However, have a look at that. Look how damaged this is. I'm pretty sure this one is the switch gear, but even that is not looking too healthy. So hopefully it fits inside this. And I think these two are probably throttle and brake switches. I really don't know which one's which. So fingers crossed. Okay, so we'll plug the dash back in. Just let it sit there. Really hope we don't have the same thing that happened with the RSV4 where it just didn't work, because this dash is super expensive. So, okay, so this is the first moment of truth, is do we have power? Oh, we've got a red flashing light on the dash. I don't know what that means. We've got a new battery. We've checked everything. I haven't got any fuel in it yet, so this is not the first start. Let's just check. Oh, the fuel pump's working. And yes, the gauges are fine. Oh, brilliant. That saved us like, what are these? What's a dash on one of these? Close to $2,000 probably. Okay, so total K is 6960. So that's pretty low. Not even 7,000 Ks on this bike. Pretty good. Yeah, it's got a few warning lights coming on. That's okay, we can fix that. I can't even turn off half these things because the switchgear on the left-hand side is completely ruined. So, the good thing was it primed. So the fuel tank primed. Let's turn it off, put some fuel in it, and try a first start. Okay, slight delay. I just found a leak. As soon as the engine primed, as soon as the actual fuel tank primed, it started spurting
fuel out of here. So I just replaced that clip. Now, fingers crossed we won't see the same problem again. So I'll just turn it on, try and prime it, and see if we see anything coming out of here. Nothing yet, that's good. I did end up with fuel just quite literally everywhere and scared the shit out of me. I was like, crap, man, what am I blow my new bike up? Well, my new old bike, but I think that's all right. I'll just try and prime it again. You can see that expand as it primes. Like, I'm wondering if that's even holding properly or if that's normal. Do it again. I think it might just be filling up the system. Right, well, we've got no more leaks, so fingers crossed we don't blow ourselves and the bike up in the process.
Not leaking, I think we're safe. You got your hands and fingers and everything crossed. I really hope this works because we don't even have a throttle attached, so it might not work. Okay, it's got to be in neutral. Okay, we're in neutral. Here goes nothing. A bit of a fire there, I don't know what that was. Did you? And we got a bit of smoke coming from somewhere. Ooh. Where was that smoke coming from? Is it just the fuel burning off the engine, I think maybe? Let's try it again. Got a definite, I don't know, it's like a backfire or something. Can you hear that? I'll try it again. There's a lot of, I think, oil and fuel vapor just smoking out of this thing. I don't want to do it too long. We know the engine runs. I think now we should clean this whole thing down because that's probably the reason it's smoking, is all of this oil and crap on the side of the engine. It actually sounds okay. It sounds like it's running fine. It's got massive errors on the screen. So I've got DTC errors. I've got heaps of stuff coming up. So that's all going to have to be cleared and fixed. But ladies and gentlemen, we have a build. So engine runs. That was my biggest concern. The biggest risk about this build was, will the engine run? And damn, that pipe sounds awesome. That pipe sounds wicked. I've never actually had a bike with a full acro system on it. So, damn, that is loud, man. That's a loud bike. So, hearts racing. So, next up, we're going to clean the bike down a bit because it is just filthy. And again, like, just get rid of all of that gunk. And that's what's smoking. So, actually, you know what? There's still bits of trees in there. That's probably what's burning as well. That looks like it's actually fixed itself, so there's no more leak there. And now we can actually start looking at some parts. So we've got a quick release sprocket, a new sprocket, 43 tooth sprocket. We've got a whole bunch of CNC Racing gear, including some gear for the back here. So all of this, bad camera work.
So all of this is going to be replaced. So let's clean the bike and then get the rear hub replaced. Yes, baby.
Some days work out perfect, days like today, not so much. I've just tried for 30 minutes to try and get this rear wheel nut off so that we could do the sprocket, the quick change adapter, the CNC one. It's beautiful. We're gonna do that in the next episode now. For now, what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna switch out these old rear sets. I've just got some OEM ones off my old V4 in this box. So this will just hold us over until our new rear sets arrive for this bike. Best part about the bike starting is now we can go ahead with the build. We can purchase things. I've already been on the phone today. We've got some awesome stuff coming for this bike. So I don't think the Olin steering damper can be saved. This is actually the plug that's supposed to go into the back of it to make it electronic. And that is completely smashed. So I can't go ahead and order a YSS damper until I check with my suspension guy to see whether or not I need to bypass the electronic plug on this or not. Surely it can't be too hard. We've just had some parts arrive from Cube Moto from the Gold Coast, Australia. These guys are amazing. At short notice, we got our hands on moto holders. We got a front frame, a race frame, and one of these, which is the carbon air duct intake. And that will be nicely played into the front end of this bike. Drop a little bit of weight as well, so we don't have to go with the old magnesium front. Let's get it installed. So super easy, it's just 4 bolts in the corner, and then all you gotta do is slide the carbon air tube in the bottom of it. How good does that look? And it's gloss carbon as well. That is beautiful. So it is so noisy in here, and I apologize. The difference with this one compared to the one that's on this bike is that this bike has one of these that actually bolts onto the front subframe just here. Whereas this one here has these extra little fins at the side. Can you see those? And that actually acts as the bottom piece for the fairing. And then on the sides, you got 2 little hole mount points just here and here. So just there and there. And that's what actually mounts it on to the front fairing. To the 2 side fairings that come up the side of the bike. So one less part we've actually got to put on. And it just means 4 simple screws hold that in. So I'll probably just mock it up with some tape for now, just so we can see how it looks. And then let's put the screen on and then get this bike half functioning. There we go, massive progress today, and probably the most important, crucial, risky, critical episode of the actual build series, because now we know the bike runs. We've managed to super quickly go and order everything we need for the bike now that we know it runs. We've even started installing some parts, so thanks to Cube Moto, thanks to Race and Road, we've got some really cool stuff happening for this bike. Our sponsors are really coming to the party. So I'm not going to drop too many hints about the design just yet, but let's just say what we've landed on is Italiano Supremo. And drop a comment, drop a like, hit the subscribe button. You know the drill. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one. Peace out. So buying this bike was a massive risk, but most of that risk is gone now that we got the bike started in the last episode. And now that most of that risk is gone, we're in a mad rush to get this bike ready and under budget. So once again, thanks to our sponsors, we've got some awesome kit to get through today. We're gonna try and get most of it on the bike if we can, because I really wanna have this bike rolling within the next week or so. So I don't know if you can see, but just in behind there, there's like a, it's like little notches, and that's where you can actually fit a specific tool in. I find just doing the exact same thing with one of these is no different. And then look how much that loosens up the chain. So it means that I can actually pull the chain off. I'll be able to, when we, see? I'll be able to get the chain off nice and easy when I take the sprocket off. So that should, in theory, just come off. There we go. Much easier. So we will actually be able to take the cush drives out of this and then sell it as parts on eBay. Probably around 200 bucks, maybe $220. So let's start tallying up the kitty as to how much money we can get back from this build. That's off. We'll just give that a bit of a clean, and that's going on eBay. Now the cush drives need to come out, and from memory, I think they just push straight out. Now we've got these absolutely beautiful nuts, red nuts. If you like my nuts, hit me up for a holler and I'll tell you where I get them. I get them from Moto Mia, Australia. Moto Mia have actually sorted us out with all of the CNC gear for this build. So super big shout out to them, amazing work. And the sprocket holder came from Race and Road. So yeah, massive shout out to them too, great job. I mean, come on, look at that. How freaking awesome does that look? So fingers crossed this will just go back on. I'm gonna end up getting gunk on my fingers, but that's life. Look at that. Check this out. This is one of the new Pecco 63 helmets. Suomi? How do you say Suomi?
Suomi?
Suomi. It's taking a while, eh?
I've got to have the suspense, you know?
She's not the fastest knot-on tire in the world. Oh, look what I'm making you do. Oh no, ready? Suspense music. Dun, dun, dun. Oh my god. That is awesome. Wow. So if anyone's looking to buy me something for Christmas or earlier, then you should buy me one of these.
And you get a trophy.
You get a trophy. Okay, we have made our way down to Cube Performance. This is also Cube Moto on the Gold Coast, Australia. And this is actually the home of Desmo Sport Ducati, the race team with Troy Bayliss. So we're gonna head inside. These guys have hooked us up with some mint performance parts.
Okay, Jake, my man, what's going on?
How you going?
I see we've got some, oh, look at that, my name's on the shoebox. These must be for me.
Yep. The Evo model of the V4S sets from Spider. These are pretty much similar spec to what they're using in World Superbike. They just don't have the frame plate, which is another product that we have as well. But
so are these what?
Pretty much as good as it gets.
Are these what the race team, so your race team, actually run on their bikes as well?
It is, but we have another plate that is the next level up from this. There's three different levels. This one's sort of like the mid-range of the three.
Yeah, cool. I'll switch to your website quickly and just show you the three models that you've got.
Rear sets, especially with Ducatis, can be a little bit fiddly and complicated, but there's a really good instruction manual at the bottom. It explains exactly how to do it.
If you're after anything performance related, hit these guys up. Cube Moto. Is it .com? .com.au. .com.au.
So we've got a 1299 final edition with 0 Ks on it, but someone has broken the mirror. Anyway, this thing is absolutely a work of art. How many of these do you see around? Not many, if any.
So I've never actually used Spider rear sets before, but Spider are a pretty awesome brand and they sponsor some wicked race teams. So I'm keen to give them a go. Like I've used CNC Racing, I've used Gillies Performance as well. So far, CNC Racing are just the creme de la creme, but let's see how these Spider ones go.
So they were actually really easy to put on, and the coolest thing is you've got this stop adjuster just here where you can just sort of move that around in a circle, and then you've also got the adjuster here so that just by loosening this off here you can raise and lower the actual angle without having to touch anything else, so you can just keep this all secure. Other really cool thing is if you have a low side or whatever and you break your peg, it's all easily accessible from here without having to take the whole thing apart. So I think we've got an end cap to go on there. Maybe it's not that one, but we've got an end cap to go on there, and then that side is pretty well done. But how freaking sick does that look? Super stoked with those, man.
I almost feel like I'm building this bike too fast because at this rate, it's going to be done in just a few short weeks. Next up, we've got this YSS, and this is our steering damper. And the reason why we've got to replace it
is because the Olin steering damper that's on here, the actual end of it, this one here, which is the electronic end, has snapped off. So luckily I'm sponsored by Suspensions R Us, who stock YSS. So we're gonna take this off and then replace it with this one. And then just here, we've got a delete coming. It's like a little switch. You take this plug off the end and you plug the Heel Tech delete into that end, and that stops the ECU from recognizing that as an electronic damper. So let's get to it. Okay, so the pack actually comes with these little spacers, and you're probably going to need them just to get a nice flush mount at the top there. So I'm going to go ahead and whack a spacer or two on there just so it holds a bit more firmly than that. And then when I take it in to get the suspension worked, we will actually adjust this and adjust the angle perfectly to make it work with turning the bike left and right. and getting the right damping setting. But these damping settings on this YSS kit is pretty awesome because you've got 30 clicks of adjustability. So you can just do it on the fly as well. Like when you're in the pits or in between sessions, just quickly adjust it. Even when you're riding, you can quickly adjust it if you can reach it. Super cool stuff.
Okay, so I promise this is the last thing for today, but I always put one of these quick chargers on every bike I build because it just speeds up literally trying to charge the bike. You can keep it on a trickle charge all night. I find it really helps. So super easy. They're about $5 on eBay or from any electronics store. Attach it, zip tie it up, and then you've got a quick charger, trickle charger, any point you want. So some massive progress on this build today. Heaps and heaps of parts have gone onto it. We've got pretty much everything ordered for the bike, so we're gonna smash through the rest of this build as fast as we can. Fairings, they should get here next week. We've got carbon fiber arriving. We've got all of the front area, so we've got all the controls, switch gear, bling, just heaps of stuff turning up. Stay tuned, like, subscribe, you know the drill. Insane, crazy, madman are just some of the comments I've received for buying such a badly wrecked V4S. So I guess I better prove them wrong. We are jamming so much into this episode that by the end of it, you will be surprised.
So let's start with the elephant in the room, which is this tank. And this was the one thing I was like super concerned about when I bought this bike, because if you have a look, you can see where this lip around here isn't quite as low as this side here. So my biggest concern is that, for one, I didn't want to have to spend $4,000 on a new tank, because this is an alloy tank and it's actually not that bad. I didn't want to try and fix the tank because it'll never look as good as an OEM tank. So instead, we have one of these, which is RPM carbon cover. Now you would have seen we did one of these on our last V4 as well, but my concern is that it's probably not going to fit on this section here. So either way, the red doesn't go with the bike. So the red doesn't actually go with the new color scheme. So we're going to have to change something. But let's try and test fit this anyway and see how much change we actually need to alter and how much work we need to do on this. Oh, on this tank. Oh, is that actually fitting? That screw hole's lining up. Yeah, it's a little bit high just there. Yeah, you can see like that lip there, that should be flush. I just love these carbon covers from RPM. That is really cool. So I'm gonna have to fix that gap. I can't have that gap on a oneL moto bike. So what are we gonna do? Let's take the cover back off and let's see if we can get our soft hammer and give that a bit of a bash into a better position. Okay, so some of you might think my method is crazy, but this gap here has actually decreased. So the gap now is only about 2 mil. So much better. It just needed a little bit through here just to be pushed down slightly. I think when it actually hit, it's hit this corner and then pushed it up. Even though all the bolt holes still align, so everything aligns correctly, it's just must have come up like 2 or 3 mil, and that was enough to get that big gap through there. So that's good enough now. I'm pretty happy with that. By the time we tape underneath this tank and then paint it, you won't really notice. So on to the next piece. Okay, so because you can still see the underside of this tank, even when it's on the bike, I'm actually gonna make sure the whole thing is painted, because the last thing I wanna do is have all these little edges around the edge of the carbon showing up red, and then this showing up red when the rest of the bike is not red. You don't know what color it's gonna be yet, but so yeah, this one needs to be cleaned. I've got to make sure all this gunk comes off. So I've got a mixture of cleaner here, and then I just follow it up with H2O with some water. Just make sure it's nice and clean before we put our base coat down. Whilst we do the tank, we're also going to do the wings. So now these are just eBay wings. They're not carbon wings, even though they look like it. They're just the cheaper version. And the reason why I've gone with the slightly cheaper one is because the first thing that breaks when you crash is a set of wings. And you no point putting $1,000 wings on a race bike because, let's face it, they're going to end up trashed at some point. So they are going to get painted. But before that, we're going to prime them. So let's give these a coat of primer, and then we've also got the tank fully set up. So that's all masked off and ready to paint as well. Okay, so sweet, that's the primer done, the surface primer. So now I'm just gonna wait until that dries, and then we'll give it a wet sand with 800, and then I will actually give it a couple of coats of paint, and you will see what color this bike is going to become. Okay, so whilst we're literally waiting for paint to dry, I'm gonna put the swing arm cover on. I've already given the swing arm a good clean. Now, it's got these grazes in it. I can't do much about that, but I can hide them. So this is gonna look pretty sick when it actually goes on. So I think it goes just like that. Now, how much better does that look compared to that? Put the double-sided tape inside here. Make sure you leave enough room for it to drain any water away, and then stick it in place. And that's it. It's as easy as that. You don't even have to screw it in place. It's just gonna hold. So I make sure I use more tape than little, so as much as you can. And then just down the bottom here, this is where I've left the gaps so that if water does egress in the top here, it can actually come out of the bottom and not get trapped, cause mold, or ruin your double-sided tape. So how much better does that look? Okay, now ever since I got this bike, it's been so hard to move this bike around the workshop. But luckily, today is gonna change all that. So our clip-ons have finally arrived, and I've actually gone with OEM. Now, there's a reason why I love OEM, and that's because of this. So this notch right here means that you don't have to go out and buy one of those extra bar positioning tools, because this notch, once you put the bar in, indicates the exact angle of where the bar should be in relation to the forks. So it saves me money. It also means that if I stick with these, I can put a mark on them of exactly where they should be. And if I ever change the top triple and I lose that little cutout just there, I always know with a paint pen exactly where on the fork it should line up. Okay, there we are. See that? So that's the locator pin. So we're gonna reuse that. New one goes in, and see the little hole just there? That's for the locator pin to go in once we've got it in there. So that's one bar on. We'll do the same on the other side, but this is a bit like a Tetris game, because now that we've got one bar on, we've got one job done, it opens us up to about another 10 or 20 jobs. And luckily, I've got a magic box over here, which has all of my V4 parts in it. So for instance, we have things like our monkey bar lever guards, they can go on. We've got a throttle, that can go on.
We've got grips. Yeah, there's heaps. So we're gonna get it all done in this episode. Okay, it looks like I've got a slight twist in my top triple, so I'm wondering if I just let the tension off the top triple bolts, these two, and here, as to whether or not I'll be able to straighten it by itself, because it looks, from eye, it looks straight until you actually stand on top. And you can see it's slightly like this. So I'm gonna have a play with loosening and tightening these and see if adjusting that top triple fixes what I need.
It seems to sort of fix itself now that I've straightened the bike up, so I could have just been working with the bike on an angle like that. That would make sense.
Okay, so we'll get Joe from Ride Dynamics once we do the suspension setup to double check everything and just make sure I am correct. So now I'm looking straighter now that the bike's up and down, so we'll double check it anyway. So we might move on to the next piece, which is deletes. Deleting as much as we can. So we'll get another package from Smart Moto, and these guys are fantastic. All the deletes you can want for your bike, all in one little nifty little bag here. So first up, we're gonna delete the side stand, and then we're gonna take the evap canister off. And then I can also sell both those things on eBay for probably, I'm gonna say the side stand, because it's completely OEM. It's hard to find one that's not completely trashed. I'm gonna say 160 bucks, $160, and the evap maybe about $60 or $70. So yeah, there's another $397. Okay, so take the little three-pronged one and the little resistor in the end. That's what confuses the computer. And then plug her in. Okay, so next up it's the evap, and there's just two bolts holding it on, one just above the evap and one to the right. So just get yourself a nice long arm and get in there and you'll be able to crack them off. That actually holds the housing, the plastic housing for the evap, and then you've still got to pull the hoses off the top. Make sure you don't plug the hose, and then once you've got this off, you can put the actual sensor plug in, which is just up here. A little bit hard to get to these ones. Now you'll see this little section just here, this is the plug, and this is what we're going to plug off. So our plug goes on the end of here, goes that way. That's one plug done. Now we can remove all of this. If you want, you can trace these all the way back up, but we're not going to. Okay, and one evap canister off as well. That's about another 400 grams. So now that both those deletes are done, I'm just gonna zip tie everything up. There's a couple of little gray zip tie points here on the Ducatis, so I recommend you use them. And that will just clean up all my wiring. It also means I can do a bit more cleaning as well, because I can now get to all this frame through here, up and through behind the evap, and just give the bike a general clean.
Okay, next up I've got some wet sandpaper, 2000 grit and some spray water. I'm just going to give these a bit of a spray down and give them a really quick light wet sand.
So just remember that this is a race bike, it's not a show bike, so it's going to have a cover over 99% of this tank anyway. I'm not worried about the paint on top of the tank, no one's going to see that, it's going to have a carbon cover. We're also going to put some white cloth tape all around this tank just to protect it from any more wear, and it also helps to hold the carbon cover on a little bit tighter. So I'll wait for this to dry, then I'll go over it with some 2K gloss clear. And just I'll let that dry probably overnight, and then we'll whack it back on the bike. But yeah, it actually looks pretty good. And there you go. The secret's out of the bag, pearl white. So that's the color we're painting the bike. And for any eagle-eyed viewers out there, you would have also seen that this has arrived, which is our Profiber race fairing. So with any luck, we'll be able to start mocking that up pretty soon as well. So we're not going to fully put the tank back on, we're just going to mock it up because I do have another part coming hopefully in the next week or so, which is this entire rear subframe. So we've got a rear race subframe coming for it. I don't want to put it all back on and then have to take it all back off, but I do want to mock it up. Okay, so we're back onto the wings and I've got this. Now this is not pearl white, this is flat white. So you're probably wondering why I'm using a can and not my spray gun. Well, the reason is I'm only painting a tiny little bit, and this is the only piece on the bike that's going to be this color. But it's actually not going to be this color. So once I paint these flat white, can you guess what the design of the bike is going to be, knowing that that flat white is not the final color? Too cryptic, maybe? Let's paint them.
Okay, so these are all dry, they're all painted. We're gonna come back to these because next episode we're gonna start revealing colors of the bike. But now, we head over to the parts table again, and we've got a few bits and pieces. We've got some carbon. So we're gonna redo this cutout mount here out of carbon this time, just to fit the Racebox Mini. And the next part to go on is actually the throttle. So I organized this to get in from Ukraine. Yes, Ukraine, supplier of a massive amount of Ducati parts. We're not gonna use this. Where is it? The spare one. But we are going to put the throttle on and the new grips. So let's get that done. Okay, so we've also got these beautiful bar ends from Monkey Bones, an Australian company. And these are very cool. These are the drop bar ends, so they actually drop down. Like very, very cool stuff. So we're gonna chuck them on, one on each side.
So we've also got a sprint filter, and this is just going to give us a bit more performance on the dyno. It's going to let more good air into the engine. So super easy to get off. All you got to do is there's 4 bolts holding the current air filter in place. Just take those bolts out and push this section forward. Now that'll actually expose the existing really crappy OEM air filter, and you can just quite literally pull it out if you can get your fat fingers in there. That's pretty cheap. Okay, so while we're on the theme of carbon, and carbon, these are dual compound racing carbon brake discs. So they're not Brembo Z04s, they're not that good, but they're definitely a level up from just your race sintered pads. So they do require a bit of heating up though. So when you got to come out of the pits, you got to pump your brakes a few times just to get a bit of heat in them. Otherwise you're going to be going full hard on into corner 1 and you're going to have almost no brakes. So let's get these installed. Obviously, I'm not going to actually lock wire these in yet, these caliper bolts, because we've got to take the whole front end off again in only a few days when we actually do the suspension overhaul. So when we overhaul the front shocks, this all has to come apart. So I'm just keeping it sort of hand tight for now so it's safe on the trailer to get the bike to Ride Dynamics, the suspension gurus. Okay, so next up, I really want to get a sense of completion, so I want to put something decent on the bike. So I'm going to put the front fairing on, but as part of that, I've also got to connect, I think, no I don't, I should be fine. Let's just put that on.
Okay, so I've just made these little buffer pads just to go on top, just to actually soften the clamp on the fiberglass. And now, let's see if we can get it to fit on this.
So I did say it was going to be a massive episode and the bike was going to look totally different by the end of it. And I think I've done that. I've definitely proved myself that this was not a bad decision. This is a good decision, buying this bike. I've still got a bit of fiberglassing to do on the rear tail, just to fix that up a little bit. And then you'll notice behind me, I've also got the full fairing from Pro Fiber. So if you want a really good fairing, hit up Pro Fiber. They're really great. Very quick to get it delivered to you as well. Very good service. And then the next part is I'm just waiting on the front shroud. So the radiator duct shroud to come in. Once that comes in, we can actually mount the entire fairing and then get to work on styling the bike. So we're not that far away from completing this beast. And this has got to be the fastest, sexiest, or one of the sexiest V4 builds you would have seen, if you can look past a few of the little scratches. Stay safe. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, you know the drill. If you told anyone that 4 weeks ago this bike was a complete wreck, they probably wouldn't believe you. And that's because 4 weeks ago it actually was a complete wreck, but we've done so much work already to transform this bike, and today is going to be another one of those transformation days. Because on this table is everything we need to actually do our first complete mock-up of this bike.
So we've got all sorts here. We've got our rear frame. So that's it holds the seat unit, it holds the tail unit, all of that jazz. We've got the lower guard, which actually goes on the bottom of the seat. These are OEM. I've purposely bought some OEM kit. We've got our full fairing from Pro Fiber. So that comes in 5 different pieces. We've got our rad guard. So this is the piece that holds our radiator guard. We'll get into that in a minute. So we've got absolutely heaps to go on this bike. Let's get started. So first up, what we're going to do is we're going to change everything over from the old rad guard onto the new rad guard. So basically in the bottom here is where your oil cooler sits, and up here is where your top radiator sits. And because these have all the connections on them, see, like there's a screw and there's a clamp, all of this has to come off, and anything that needs to be retrofitted onto this will get done. So we're going to need to keep things like this bolt, this rubber spacer, this clamp, etc. So let's get ahead and get that done. So just off that front guard, I've got around about probably $70 worth of extra rubbers and these, absolute gold. That's one rad guard on. It's actually super easy because these just come straight out, and then once you've pulled these out, you've only really got 3 or 4 bolts. You've got 2 directly through which hold both the radiators together, and you've got 1 little mount at the bottom 2 in the sides and 2 in the top. And that's it. It's actually like not a hard job. I have found something wrong though. We've got a split in one of our overflow hoses. It's only an overflow hose, but I will still replace it anyway. So I might just remind myself later to replace that hose. Other than that, it's looking pretty good. So now we can put our, I'm pretty sure we have a tank for this side as well. So we do, our overflow reserve tank sits over here. So we'll put that on, and then next steps.
Okay, so the front on this is actually slightly different to the last motor holders front that I bought, in that this one is separate completely. It's not tied to the actual alloy front frame. So it sits up in the air duct just there, but it bolts onto the side of this front plastic section. So what we need to do is pre-drill here and here, mark it out, and then fit it with some clips so that we can screw through and hold it in place. This is actually super hard to get it perfect because I mean, obviously the people that make the carbon don't make the plastic, so the two don't really align perfectly. You've got to take almost like a best guess as to where it's going to go. And I think what I'll do is I'll use clamps, and I'll clamp it where I think the best spot is, and then put a paint pen marker up underneath, and that should allow me to drill properly. It does have these little dents where it sort of suggests that you drill the holes, but if I drill where those dents are, I don't think it's actually going to hold. Let's just give it a go. Okay, so that's on. The carbon looks awesome. So now I think we can put the front nose cone back on, and then we can actually start pre-drilling the Pro Fiber race fairing, and yeah, trying to do a mock-up with that as well. Okay, so this centerpiece is actually quite a bit harder if you're doing it by yourself. So what I like to do is grab 4 or 5 of my fairing bolts, put them to one side so you've got them ready, and then starting from either the top or the bottom, have your drill ready. And whilst you're holding both pieces overlapping exactly where you want them, if you've got tiny little mini clamps, you can clamp them in place. That's great. If not, hold them with one hand, drill the other hole, and go right through both layers. Screw goes in, holds it in place. Now I can start working on the other parts. coming together. Who would have thought that this was completely wrecked only just a few weeks ago? This is gonna be a sick bike, absolutely sick. So for anyone that watched the last episode, you would know we've got a full race rear end coming for this bike, a motor holder's rear end. So I'm probably wasting my time mocking this up, but I want to see how it looks anyway. So let's go ahead, let's put the rear mount on the bike, and then underneath that we've got this, which is like a piece of plastic which you need in order for the actual top fairing to bolt onto something. So let's get those both on. That's not gonna work because my box that I've made in the back here is actually hitting the main frame. So this frame must have changed a little bit because look, it's not centered and it's actually hitting the frame. So how am I gonna fix that? Because these are lined up, these holes are where they're supposed to be, and yet if I pull that across, look at that, look how much that's overlapping. There's no way I'm gonna get that box to fit without cutting some of the main top frame off, which I'm not gonna do. Like, I'm not cutting into this. So what are we gonna do with this? I haven't actually ordered one of these and I don't have a spare one. I've brought it down to about 5 millimeters, and that should fit. Yep. Hopefully. Famous last words. Nicely right there as a box. So I've still got a little bit of depth. And then we're still nice and straight, so that's good. So I've just found another pretty big issue, and that's actually my main brake line is destroyed. I've actually got a little bit of brake fluid dripping down the inside of my fork, and I realized, I don't know how I missed this earlier, but there's brake fluid here as well. I'm guessing you buy the whole thing all the way from the ABS unit, feed it up, undo these, feed it all the way up, and then it's just got the connector on the top. So I better go ahead and get one of those ordered from Cube. So you don't always know everything on day one when you get one of these bikes back. Often I just find things out as I'm going. But I wish I'd picked up on that because I really wanted to have this bike ready in about 2 weeks and probably get it out for a test. So I'm gonna have to get on, order these extra parts straight away this morning, and fingers crossed they'll arrive shortly. This is like the toughest part of the build, is trying to figure out exactly how I'm going to make it look. I'm trying to keep it minimalistic. I don't want to go over the top. I'm already thinking that all of these stickers here the little part stickers are too much. So I think they're going to come off. Which leaves us with a oneL Moto sticker, a Ducati sticker with the green, white and red, a Desmo Stradale sticker. Now just bear in mind that this whole section will be white with a black sticker over the top. So this will be carbon through here, and then this top section here will be white. So that needs to be painted.
On the front, that's actually a black sticker, so that's not really going to go on a black guard. So what I was thinking is actually putting a white stripe down the middle of the guard just to be different, and maybe even a Italian flag sticker down that white stripe. The Italian flag sticker continuing all the way up and down the center of the bike all the way. Either a sticker or paint, I'm not sure. Light gray inside the old headlights, so light gray with maybe even like a black, like 4 or 5 millimeter line around the edge, just to give it a bit of pop, just to make that pop. The wings will actually be green, white and red, or red, white and green, I'm not quite sure what. And then on this side, just a basic Ducati sticker as well with the oneL sticker just there. The seat has also got the Italian colors in it. So I did say that this bike would be an ode to Italy. So, I mean, I think it's going to look good. What do you think? Drop a comment, let me know.
Okay, it's like 35 degrees outside. I'm sweating bullets and I have got so much done on this puppy, even though it's under wraps at the moment, ready for paint. Everything in terms of the fairing is ready to go. It's all been prepped, it's all been sanded. We've got the front and rear guards are back on the bike, they look great. This is going to be crazy. I can't wait to see how this bike turns out once we start applying what I really hope is going to be a cool design. And I'm still on the fence about it. I'm just gonna have to do it. You know the drill. Like, subscribe. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching. I can't paint at the moment. I've just set myself back another few days. Damn, I can't tell you how pissed I am at myself. Welcome to the 9 steps of hell. Okay, so today we are all about painting this beast, and there's 9 steps involved and it is not easy. I'm not gonna talk much, I'm just gonna film it because I don't wanna get distracted and miss something. This is probably the most critical part of the build. I have to get it perfect, especially for this bike. It's a V4S, it deserves a perfect paint job, and I just can't afford to stuff it up. Slight change of plans. It sometimes helps to have someone actually give you a bit of advice. So I got my beautiful wife and she said to me I was probably overdoing it, so I've simplified it slightly and hopefully it's gonna look better. So next up we've got the pearl. So we're gonna put the pearl top coat on and then we're gonna start adding some color.
how awesome do they look? They just have come up so glossy, so like just wicked. They're gonna look so good on the side of the bike. Can't wait to put them on. So we might move on to the next stage. We're still waiting on a couple of decals to arrive. We've been waiting for 2 months. No, not 2 months, that can't be right. About 5 weeks for these decals to arrive. So hopefully they come today. And we've got a few to put on the bike, but let's get started with what we already have. So the first round of decals are done and they look sick. So take a quick look. You can see it's Italian themes. We'll flip that up the right way soon. We've got a little bit of red in everything. We've got the oneL Moto designs here and here on the side panels. We've still got to do these 2 sections, the front and the back. And then we're probably going to put some extra Italian style decals on the carbon tank cover as well. But for now, it is so freaking hot outside and in here that we can't paint for at least a few more hours. So we're gonna hit the road, go see some suppliers, pick up some parts, and get as much done in this video as possible. Let's go. Okay, so we're back at Moto Mia, awesome sponsor of the channel, and we've got Matt. Hey mate. Awesome guy. That's a pretty schmick bike. That's a 996R.
996R, yep. We're just doing a minor resto, exhaust polish, front nose cam repainted, headlight reconditioned. What else should I do? We've got to put new chains and sprocket on it. But yeah, mate, just a little tidy up for the customer that owns it.
Very cool. I think Baron von Grumble just got one of these.
His was a 916.
916, sorry. I just did 996R.
The 996R, yeah.
Ah, so 996 is the Matrix bike.
Well, when the Matrix was being filmed, the 996 was the bike in the movie, but when the movie came out, the 998 was the bike that was actually being released by Ducati at the time. So the Matrix bikes were actually 998s.
And they did the green version.
They did.
Yeah, cool. Anyway, let's have a look. We've got an order come through. So what do we got? That's...
Brembo lever.
So it's a, what's that called again? RC19. What else? That's my left side.
Left side switch blocks.
Left side switch block. This is all for the V4S.
Kill
Cool.
switch.
Kill switch, awesome. So I need that before I can actually put the top tank cover on, otherwise it won't fit.
And a couple of remote adjusters.
Ooh, oh, the red. Yeah, nice. Cool. That's awesome. Because we've got red accents throughout the bike. So that's the remote adjuster for the RC19. So that's cool. So we've still got a switch block for the right side, and that'll be coming in shortly. But yeah, let's go get those on the bike. Thanks, Matt.
No worries, mate. Enjoy. Merry Christmas.
Okay, back in the garage, just smoking hot, as in temperature-wise. I'm gonna get a couple of these push buttons put on the bike. Unfortunately, I can't do the any of the right side gear because someone crashed into my lovely bike yesterday and knocked it over. So this, I actually have to replace the right hand clip-on and I need it for a photo shoot for Sunday. So I'm gonna steal it off this bike and then that's fine. We'll get another clip-on ordered, so we'll put that on later. So let's go ahead and get the start-stop button put on and the left side switch gear, the beautiful M&M color switch gear. Let's get them put on and at least that's one more job done and then we can get back to painting. I've got some more decals. We should be able to get the clear coat on it tonight. Hopefully we'll actually be able to mount some of this fairing as well and give you a look at how it looks before we actually sign off on this episode. So this should be quite an easy job and you'll actually need to take this plastic piece off anyway in order to get your tank cover to sit correctly. Just do a little bit of each side at a time. You'll have to pull your key out as well. Otherwise the plastic won't come over the top of your key. Now all we want to do is just trace this back, and it will have a cable just here. So you got a clip, a main clip just here, and then this side should have a small clip, which is the actual, it's the receiver, like it's this here, and this is the part that has to come off, this little plastic part at the top here. And we just want to unclip that on the side, so we'll go ahead and take this one off first. So now what we want to do is separate the top just here from the actual ignition. I think we just pull it off like that. Now that clip will have to come out. You might need to put a couple of spaces under here depending on the height of your actual tank cover. So we're going to test that out. Once we've done the painting, we'll put it back on, and we have a whole bunch of spaces in our little box over there specifically for this. I think we've even got, we've even got some little red, well, they used to be red, jet prime spaces, and that's to hold up this entire section just a little bit higher. So yeah, a couple of bolts will go through there. The same bolts go through the top just there. So we'll drill a couple of holes, probably 8mm holes for those bolts. I love the packaging. I love how they come with, like, see the foam cutout? How cool is that? Like, so carefully packaged. And it comes with the bolts as well, the exact bolts that you need. So we just need to be very careful that you don't pinch these wires just in the middle here. And I'm just going to put it on relatively loosely for now because we've still got to position our brake adjuster as well once we put the brake on the other side. Okay, so there we go. So now we're going to start-stop button, of course, once the battery works, and we've got our M&Ms for our left-hand side, and I think that's about the right angle actually for me. So yeah, I think that works perfectly. Jeez, this bike is covered in dust. Look at the amount of dust on this thing. I have to cover it back up. So now we've got a spare ignition. You could sell this. So if you've got a spare key, you can always sell it with a spare key. You can always get keys cut for them, so they're worth a bit of money on eBay. Around about probably at $180, $200 mark on eBay. So we'll put that in our little CNC box there, and that can go on eBay. We've still got a fair bit of stuff to go on the front here, but we're also going to take this off in a minute. I'm not going to film that, but that's going to go back on the other bike, like I said. And now let's get back to painting. And we're back to the most stressful part, which is clear coating. And if you've ever clear coated a bike, you know you've got to get it perfect because you get quite literally one shot. I've got to lay about 3, maybe 4 coats down, probably 3, and then leave it for a few days to harden so I can actually wet sand it. And with my wet sandpaper, I actually let it sit in water for 24 hours first to soften the sandpaper up as well, just so you don't get any scratches at all. So this is quite a lengthy process. So far, it's been days worth of work just to get to this stage. And right, so let's mix up some, we're gonna go with gloss, a 2K gloss clear, and it's 2 parts gloss to 1 part hardener.
I have just had an absolute major cock up. I've just left tiny little bits of residue of red in that spray gun. And I don't know if you can see that, but I've left little red dots all over the back piece. I'm so glad I started with the back piece because I can respray it. But I'm so pissed at myself as well. Oh, I can't believe I did that for not checking my gun to make sure it was perfectly clean.
Okay, and here's the problem. Such a rookie mistake. Can you see the red inside that filter? That's what it is. It's just red. Little bits of red paint sitting inside the filter. I cleaned this, but I didn't clean or didn't replace the filter. So, lessons to be had. Like if you look at the green, here's my green filter, and that's got, like, it's quite literally green. I won't use that again. So, I'm actually going to clean my gun, top to toe, take that filter out. If I can't clean the filter, I will have to go and get some more from the shop. I can't paint at the moment. I've just set myself back another few days. Damn, I can't tell you how pissed I am at myself. I'm actually gonna have to go over this again. I'm gonna have to tape it back up and go over it again with white and again with pearl, just on this piece. Look at that. That's the culprit. Man, what a rookie mistake. Rookie mistake.
So I think I might have rescued it. Sorry about the light in here, it's so bad. But I have sanded it back. I've then applied 2 coats of the base and then another 2 coats of pearl. And it's actually looking really good. So I'm pretty happy with that. However, I threw all of my decals in the rubbish. The only one I could find, well, 2, is I could find these. So these are black or silver Ducati stickers. I don't really know if I can use them because I've already got 2 Ducati stickers on the bike. And this, which is, it's a cutout sticker as well, and it's a race box sticker. And I thought that would look kind of cool with the big R, because look at the size of it, like right there, as just R for race box. Maybe even cut the actual race box word off. Just to give the back a little bit of color, and it's red, so it ties in with the red on the oneL, the red on the Italian flag. Yeah, I'm probably reaching a little bit, but I didn't want the back to go completely naked, as in no color at all. So I think I'll go with the R of the race box. So I'm gonna let this dry, smack the R on there, and then we're on to gloss, finally. This feels like it's taken forever, and this is actually day 5, I think. It's crazy. How many shirts have you seen me change? Nuts. Okay, heaps more energy this morning. Got myself a coffee, another clean t-shirt, and we can finally start putting
the fairing on the bike. So we're gonna do a full mock-up. I do have to take some of it off again though, because we've got a rear race subframe going on and you've got to take the tank off to do that. But we are gonna do a mock-up. First things first, this, we've got to put the wings on this. So let's get that done. So we've got some minor issues, some minor little fitment issues with the front where I'm out by maybe 1.5 centimeters, 2 centimeters. And it's because this lip just here is actually rubbing on the inside. So I'll show you what I've done. I've actually just put a line. So I put the fairing back on and then I drew a line as to where the carbon comes to. And then you can see these little black points here. That's the carbon rubbing off on this fairing. Now I can't cut this fairing because otherwise you would see it through the front of the fairing and that would just destroy it. Like that would be a massive waste. So what I need to do is measure back the distance from this line and then see if that distance allows me to cut into this but still maintain the full carbon look from inside. You shouldn't notice if I just cut this lip off. That's the only thing I can think of to actually fix this issue. Otherwise, I can't pull the fairing forward anymore. It can't go this way. It has to line up with that hole there. So I need a new bolt for that because I don't have a nice matching black one. So I have to go to the shop and get that. So that's the only thing I can think of. So I'm going to go ahead and cut most of this lip just here. As long as the fairing still sits in there with like a 1 centimeter lip, that's all that really matters because it's still held on by like, God knows, 6 bolts. And the air is still going to go correctly into the right place regardless of that lip being there at all or not. So fingers crossed. And now that I look at this actually straight on, have a look. That lip over there is almost flat and it's about 1 inch. This lip over here is about 1/3 to maybe even 1/2 of an inch. So it's not actually even, it's not perpendicular. So I don't know how these are made in a mold or what, but they need to fix their mold. So motor holders, fix your mold.
good does that look? I've still got a few tiny little alignment issues. I've got to bring the whole fairing this way around about 1/2 centimeter. There's just a bit of a gap just here, so I'll have to fix that. I'll take a little bit more out of that carbon guard at the front. I'm pretty impressed. I like it. I think it's subtle, which is what I was going for. I think I've got enough of the red, white and green, but not too much. So yeah, let me know. Drop a comment. Do you like it? Is it what you thought we were going to build? It's not finished yet, by the way. We've still got heaps of parts to come for this bike. We've got tuning, we've got heaps of stuff to go, but for this episode, that's pretty much done. So thanks for watching. Until the next one, like, subscribe, you know the drill. Welcome back. Second to last episode of the V4S build. I can't believe it's only been a matter of weeks since this bike was a complete wreck, a complete write-off. No one else would buy it. I took the risk, and now look at it. It's sensational, and it's not even finished yet. Today, we're all about suspension. So the bike is going in for a full front-end suspension rebuild. But before we can do that, we've got a whole bunch of parts. Let's take a look. Some of these parts have to go on straight away before we can even move the bike. So we've got a replacement clip-on because, you know, let's be honest, my wife crashed into my other bike, so I had to steal that one. From Moto Mia, we've got an RC19, along with, we've also got the remote brake adjuster, so that'll be going on. So thank you so much, Moto Mia, awesome supplier. From Cube Moto, we've got a whole bunch of stuff, but it's not all going on the bike today. We've got a motor holders rear end, so that's the rear subframe. That's gonna look awesome on the bike. We've also done one on our other V4. And then we've got all of the miscellaneous OEM things that we're going to need in order to get the front of the bike set up. So I've made sure I've ordered heaps of this sort of stuff, like little brackets and hoses and whatnot, because they're so cheap, it's worthwhile having them. So Cube Moto actually have an OEM store, so I suggest you jump on their website and check out both their OEM store and their performance parts section as well. And then in this little bag here, we've got our ABS line. So this is our brake pump line for the front. So that's going on. And then they've also decked us out with a very, very nice WRS high, I think it's 40mm higher race screen. So that fits like a glove. So that's gonna go on the bike in, well, I don't know if it's going on now, but it'll be going on shortly. So first things first, we actually need to get this on the bike. So I'm gonna install this, and then we're gonna try and get the brake line in, get the brakes actually working, and that way I can push it on and off the trailer tomorrow. So the last plate arrived for the left-hand side rear set, and it looks so much better. And this is the second battery I've managed to ruin, so I had to go and grab another one. But the good part about that is now that I've got a good battery in there, I can actually test this start button, and it's awesome to see that it actually works. So next up, it's off with the fairings again, just a few quick fairing bolts, and that means I can actually get to these ABS cables. So that was actually quite easy, just taking the old one off. So the old one, I had to bend it a little bit to get it through some of the holes, but I found if I actually undid the radiator housing bolt and pushed everything forward, everything just slid straight out. Replace a front, what's it called again? A front brake hose, super easy. So ABS hose. So now fairing back on, clip on. Maybe we'll see if we can get the screen on tonight as well. And then we're off to suspension tomorrow.
Okay, not bad. That looks awesome. Such an awesome windscreen. I've just got to put another couple in. I'm not sure I'm going to put these bottom ones in because I'm going to end up with 4 points anyway. So I'm going to put 2 in up the top here. And then maybe these 2. Well, hell, I probably will put those 2 in. But I'm going to wait to do those until I've actually got the front off again so I can measure from the back. Otherwise, I would just be guessing, really, where to drill a hole. And I don't want to get it wrong on the bottom there because that's going to mess up all my work. The top, yes, I can drill those pretty easily though, so I will do that. Okay, so we're back at Ride Dynamics. We've got the V4S up on the stand. And I think first things first is we need to actually know how bad these forks are. So Joe is gonna pull them apart, and then we really wanna test and see, 1, if they're straight, and 2, there's a tiny little dent at the top of this side. We wanna make sure that the inner tube actually travels past that okay and there's no hindrance. So we're gonna pull it all apart, and I guess the plan is, if we do have any issues, then we'll just dry assemble it again, take them back to another specialist who will straighten them, and then bring them back to get them rebuilt properly by Joe. So let's start ripping this baby apart.
That's it, yeah.
Cool. Okay, so we've got a minor issue, and that the plug just here on this side, on the right side, has actually got some exposed wires on it. So we do have a spare plug. The little clip on the side of the plug is broken, but the seal, the O-ring seal inside here, is still fine. So it still pushes in, it still holds it. If that O-ring seal was gone, that would be $700 to replace the top motor that goes in there. We do not want to be doing that. So we're going to replace the clip on this, and then we hope that that will hold up. And then fingers crossed that will all just work fine.
Okay, so we're back in the garage. I've got to be honest, I'm super relieved that that suspension was salvageable and saved, and everything is nice and straight, and it's all functioning and working properly. So massive thanks to Joe at Ride Dynamics. If you need your bike set up for track, go see Joe, he'll sort you out. So now what we're going to do is we're going to strip this down again, and we're going to do the rear subframe, so the motor holder's subframe. It's not a small job, so let's get into it. So once again, it's off with the seat, off with the fairings. Pretty much everything that makes up the back of the bike has to come off.
Okay, so the next challenge is there's these tiny little bolts right down the bottom here, and here, which actually hold this plastic piece on. And the only way to get to that plastic piece is under the exhaust. So just under there, and there's no possible way I can fit any tools into that space. So even if I take this cover off, I've still got Buckley's chance of getting to those. So I'm actually not sure how I did this last time. Okay, so on closer inspection, I don't have to do that. I just unplug the O2 sensor and the comp and rebound switches from the TTX, push them through that hole there, and then this piece of plastic is actually connected to the rear subframe. So as long as I take the 4 bolts off the rear subframe and these 3 little bolts here off that piece of plastic, the whole thing should, in theory, just slide out. But I think we know nothing is ever that easy on a Ducati, so let's give it a go.
Okay, that was actually, it was easier than last time, but there's always a couple of hidden little bolts that you just completely forget about. Anyway, subframe's off. Now, let's try and fit the new one. Okay, so small bonus compared to the last one we did. It looks like I can probably reuse the existing bolts because they're actually quite indented in there. So it looks like I'm gonna get a fair bit of purchase in through these, whereas the last motor holders one I bought, I had to get some special M8 bolts. Just give them a bit of a clean as well. They're super dirty, and then we'll put some blue Loctite on them. I think the torque on these is 25, but I'll double check. We're just gonna put everything together loosely for now. I don't wanna put it too tight because then I won't be able to get all my tank alignment and everything, like the cross bracing done. So I'm just gonna put it pretty loose. So thanks for watching. That has been a massive episode. I'm so stoked to get this moto holders rear frame on, all the other parts, get the suspension done. This bike is almost a complete package. We've just got some integrated switchgear to come on the right hand side, and then we've got to finish off the rear sets and connect them all up, test ride it, dyno power run, and then job done. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, stay tuned, you know the drill. Hoping I'm correct when I say that today is the day. It's the day we get to finish this beast of a bike and say goodbye to yet another wicked build. So we've got dyno, we've got more performance parts, but first, we've actually got to clean this thing. And that's because there's no way in my right mind I could let one of these beautiful bikes walk out the door looking like a bag of crap. So, as much as I might protest, I will try and clean something.
So next up, I had to remove the lower fairing just so I can get access to the shifter arm. And now that the lower fairing was off, we could actually get our new shifter arm from our Spider rare sets and put the extension arm onto the existing shifter arm and make one shifter arm. Now this part was actually kind of frustrating because it took me about 15 minutes to really get the angles right between the shifter arm and making sure that the actual back of the rear set didn't rub over all of the carbon on the swing arm. After a bit of fiddling around, I managed to get it just about right. And then it's simply a matter of putting the whole thing back together, fairing back on, job done.
Okay, so one minor issue that I've never had before is I cannot bleed the frickin' clutch. So like,
I put a new cylinder on there, so a new reservoir. I just can't seem to get anything coming out here. So
we are going to attempt to vacuum bleed. Never done a vacuum bleed before, so we're going to try and do that a little bit later on when we do the dyno, and fingers crossed we can get this clutch to work. I'm a little bit worried that the plunger on the OEM handle I bought is actually too short, and it's not. You can see there how it's actually bottoming out on the master cylinder. So I'm a bit worried the plunger's too short, but fingers crossed it's just me being useless, and we'll try and get it fixed to Savo. Okay, we're back. Cold beer, donuts. It's dyno time, bitches. So I'm with Brett, the master mechanic. How do we actually do a vacuum?
We use a vacuum bleeder.
we use a vacuum bleeder. So that runs air straight across the top.
And it'll
Which
pull the vacuum
sucks.
through, and it'll pull the fluid through the system
Yeah.
and give you a head start.
But we're running it on the bottom nozzle, yeah?
Yeah, we'll pull it from the top all the way down. and
From
through
the top
system.
down. Yeah, okay, cool. And then you just turn it off to stop the vacuum.
Now we got a lever.
How cool is that? It's like 10 times faster than doing it my way.
There's the YouTube way and the correct way.
Wow, hurt my feelings. Well, now that I only live 7 minutes away, you know where I'm coming every single time I need a bleed done, don't you?
It'll cost you many donuts.
Many donuts.
Many donuts.
Donuts. Sounds pretty loud.
Sounds good. GP shift there too, I've noticed.
Yeah, I just did that today actually. I just put it all together. I'm hoping this chain will just clean up. Brett, what do you reckon? Just like it looks a bit rusty. I wasn't going to replace it.
Yeah, no, it should clean
It
up.
should just clean up, yeah.
Huh?
So, what do you reckon we're going to get? Brett, you're up first. What do you reckon?
I would hope 200, 205,
You got to pick a number. One number.
204.
204? Oh, damn, that's what I was going to pick.
208.
208. Dreaming.
Yeah, 204, I think.
204. Well, you're both going to win a donut. I'm going to go. I'm going to go 203 and a half.
Okay, fine, I'll go 203. We're at 207.91 currently, and
With the dragging clutch.
with a dragon clutch, and Brett reckons we're going to get more. So let's see.
Try again.
210. So who was close to 210?
I think
You were?
208.
208.
Yeah, baby.
I was at 203.5. The other two boys were at 204. You win the donuts.
Hey, that'll do.
That's if they don't get eaten beforehand. You're it. Hey,
What
pups.
bike is it?
What's that?
What bike is it?
This is a Panigale V4.
Oh, you got to fix me up for the brake.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Thanks so much, Brett. 210. Wait, hold on. Let's get it exact. Let's get it exact. 210.34 at 13.3 thousand RPM. Max torque 91.73 at 11,680. That is impressive numbers. So whoever buys this bike is going to have an over 210 horsepower weapon at their disposal. I can't believe it, man. Oh, way more than I expected. Awesome. Look at the dip, how it just sort of dips in power. It's still going up progressively, but just a significant dip, and then it just picks up heaps more power again here. Isn't that odd? So you use so much more power towards the mid to top range in that V4. So we're just clearing a few codes. Was there anything that really stood out?
Intake air temperature sensor.
Intake air temperature sensor. So probably something I've unplugged. I need to double check it, plug it back in. I did notice some extra plugs in the front. I probably need to make sure they're plugged back in. So we're just going through, see how errors are deleted, press confirm, or we're just deleting one at a time. Most of them are fine, there's nothing major. thank you for watching. This is another build completed, and this one was in record time. Actually, this was all up, I think this was only 7 weeks, so that's a pretty quick build to get something like this. And wow, I mean, should we take a look at everything we've done to it?
Okay, so let's start from the frame. The frame itself was actually fine. We did replace the front frame. So you see the front frame through there is a Moto Holders front frame. So that's got a new race frame on the front. And then it's also got, if you can see through there, it's got carbon ducts. So it's got a carbon air duct which feeds into the Moto Holders front frame. So that was all replaced. We've replaced the rear frame as well with a Moto Holders race frame. So all of those frames and ducts are thanks to Cube Moto on the Gold Coast. So thank you so much for them. At the rear, we've replaced all of our sprockets with a CNC and JT sprocket racing combo. So this is quick release, and then we put some nice CNC racing bling in terms of the nuts and the sprocket carrier as well. So that is thanks to Moto Mia in Brisbane. What else have we done? We've done some carbon. So the carbon on the back guard here and the tank is thanks to RPM carbon, and I'm pretty sure it's Thailand. We've done the rear sets. So these are Spider rear sets. These are the GP Evo rear sets. So thank you again, Cube Moto, for that on the Gold Coast. GB Racing engine covers, both sides. Pro Fiber provided us with our really awesome race fairing. So that came up super awesome. Two-wheel decals. We had a whole bunch of decals made at Two-Wheel Decals. So thank you again for those guys. Race seat, bought that off a good friend of mine, so thank you a lot. We've got the Race Box Mini, so that is fully Bluetooth and wireless, so that'll connect up and you can use that on the go. Suspension, so front and rear suspension. We've got the TTX on the rear, Öhlins TTX, and then on the front we've got the fully adjustable Öhlins electronic shocks, fully rebuilt by Ride Dynamics, by Joe at Ride Dynamics on the Gold Coast. We've also got all the switchgear, so all the CNC Racing switchgear on the left hand side here, including the CNC adjustable RC19 brake. We'll go over the other side in a second and have a look. We've got the start stop button, the CNC Racing start stop button, and then the integrated throttle over on the right hand side. So let's shoot over that right hand side and take a quick look. There's the Brembo RC19. So that's a pretty awesome piece of kit. That's all thanks to Moto Mia in Brisbane. So yeah, once again, thanks Matt from Moto Mia. Some other suspension related work. We've got a YSS steering damper. So that replaced the OEM steering damper that was completely destroyed. So thank you to Suspensions R Us, one of our major sponsors, Suspensions R Us, for all your suspension needs. So these guys are awesome. We've replaced the brake pads, so we've got carbon SBS racing pads in there. Everything else was relatively straight, so the front wheel was fine, it just needed a good clean. The rotors were nice and straight. The rest of the body was nice and straight. What else have we done? We've got the full acro system exhaust on it, so front to rear acro system on it. That's probably why we got 210 horsepower at the dyno. We've got the nice CNC red nut on the back here as well. What else? The list just keeps going on. We've got the Ducati V4 tank pads. We've got on the edge, we've got some monkey bone stuff. So we've got monkey bones lever guards, domino grips, and then we've also got the TWM Marcassini tank, quick release tank thingamabob. So that's cool. We've just got a standard dash because you don't need to shell out sort of $4,000 for an L2M dash if you don't need to. WRS screen, thanks to Cube Moto. Yeah, we have just pretty much top to tail this whole bike, and there's really not much that hasn't been touched, to be honest. In terms of deletes, we've done a side stand delete. We've done an evap delete, which is right down the bottom there. So that's your evaporative air delete. We've done a secondary air delete up inside the engine there. So that's all the covers off the engine. So that's called a, what's that called? An AIS delete. So that's done as well. So we've got three deletes done. We've got the rear light delete done.
So the whole bike is actually completely set up and ready for racing or track now. So really, this bike will go on the market soon. Good luck to whoever buys it. This thing is an absolute beast.
Once again, I just want to thank all my sponsors. Moto Garage, Brett from Moto Garage helps me out so much with so much knowledge and so many tips and tricks, and pulls me up when I'm doing something wrong. So massive shout out to Brett from Moto Garage. Matt from Moto Mia in Brisbane gets me all of the CNC Racing goodies really quickly. If you need any CNC gear, hit up Matt. Izzy from YSS Suspension, thank you so much. Izzy from Suspensions R Us, who stock YSS Suspension, thank you so much. Jake Short and Ben from Cube Moto, some of the parts we've got on this bike are really thanks to you guys, so amazing. Race and Road, so we've got Smarty and Lisa from Race and Road for the tyres in particular, but everything else you've helped me with to source for this bike and my other bikes, we thank you so much for that. Who am I missing out? Two Wheel Decals for the decals, and anyone else who I may have missed, I'm sorry if I missed you, but thank you so much for everyone involved, and onwards and upwards, because there's another build coming and it's going to be epic, and it starts another 2 weeks, so stay tuned, like, subscribe, you know the drill.
So earlier in the day, I lost the rubber seal out of that reservoir, and it's under here somewhere.
It's inside the dyno.
Inside the dyno. So when it comes out, it'll be faster. It'll be a faster rubber seal when it comes out.